at least I've not been able to see who's watched. I don't think it allows that. The way they have it set up too, there's not a place for people to leave comments. And so I have no idea. Normally we can tell like only 1 or 2 people have watched, but then every time we log into it, I think that treats it as a watch.
My husband goes on and watches. I have no idea why.
Eli watched part of it.
I don't know why more people don't watch. I think they're interesting.
Once you get into a couple of thousand of them, they cease to be very interesting.
I had that one down from the office.
Thank you.
Because I didn't know the other ones for you.
I met your counterpart in Benton County earlier this week.
Who would that be?
Well, I can't remember his name, but he writes the Court News in Benton County.
Well, there's 2 of them who do that off and on. One is Tracy Neal, the other's Mike Jones.
I think it was Mike Jones, yeah. I got the minutes and an agenda, is there other stuff?
We're gonna talk about polling locations.
I saw that.
Yeah, not necessarily, closing them, but just moving and just kind of start the discussion, because we have to have everything in place by September the 7th. So when you think about it, that's not really.
That's not that long at all.
No, so, a growth in like the registered voters or the polling location.
That's great.
Hello. The first one here?
You are. Renee just sent a text and said she's running late.
You don't have any coffee brewing anywhere, do you?
Do you, let me call Marlena. Sometimes in the clerk's office they do.
Hey, I'll just, yeah.
Yeah, let me call
Yeah, sure.
and ask if they've got a pot, or they may have a Keurig.
Oh, yeah, cool. Okay, that would work.
You're not allowed to get coffee at the prosecutor's office?
Do you think they have a Keurig by any chance and coffee?
Yeah, over there, I don't have to practice
You
criminal
don't?
law, you know? Maybe I should hit them up anyway.
And do you have coffee? You would just hear Mac.
One place you think they don't have coffee.
Okay,
That's a good point.
Okay,
I'm at
all
the
right,
office,
thanks.
I can suck it
I don't
down
buy-
anytime I want.
they have a Keurig and coffee in the clerk's office.
Okay. Maybe I'll run up.
Yeah, she said.
I'll try not to be late, I'm sorry.
Okay.
You're right.
I thought they had a Keurig, because I thought they did.
I don't know if y'all like to do garage sales and thrifting, but I love to go to thrift stores and garage sales. St. Joseph is having their annual garage sale. It started today. They have some really neat stuff.
Oh, yeah. We went we went Saturday to one, and I collect, they're butter molds and coffee molds, they're from Germany, and they have, just like an image of like soldiers or people or, you know, with different things, and you roll your butter out on them, and it makes a pattern in them, and they have like 5 or 6 of them, so I went there.
In a garage.
Yeah, so I was like, oh.
That's how I relax, is to go in the garage.
Yeah.
And it's so funny, because my grandson likes to go with me. Now, he'll be 18 in a few weeks, and he loves that too.
My sons tell me, I took my youngest one to the junk ranch with me, and,
We'd be gone during that.
he goes, you can't get that, that's haunted. And I'm like, okay. So, yeah, so.
That would explain your text messages.
Yes. That would. The fishing one. Renee is running late, and Max went to go get a cup of coffee up in the clerk's office.
They didn't
Well-
take orders for everything.
thinking I'm late.
How are your fingers?
You know, it's getting better. You know, I'm wearing this doggone hat again all the time because I'm using that doggone cream again on my head.
Sorry, y'all, you're fine.
That's bugging me.
Still beat
Wearing that on your.
No.
Oh, no, your stuff is here.
Chemo cream I'm having to
Yeah.
use on top of my head.
He went upstairs to the clerk's office to get a cup of coffee.
Oh, okay. Oh, boy. He's had a long day too, I guess.
Looked like he was all dressed up like he'd been in court today.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. I feel like I've been in court.
What have you been doing today?
Everything and nothing. But
Are you good at it? That's the question.
I'm not so sure I'm good at it, but I'm forced into it. So, whew. I apologize for my lateness.
That's a lot of information, but I couldn't figure it out.
I know, and I just thought it would give us an idea of the number of registered voters located in those areas and the growth and changes in those areas. So, one thing the clerk has done, which I'm grateful for them doing, when we went to vote centers, voters can vote at any location.
Sure.
But the clerk has always kept track of the original precincts assigned to a polling location, so that helps us keep track of how many registered voters are in that area. Because even though we do vote centers, only about 15% of the voters actually use
Get outside of their
normal vote center. So it really helps us keep track, and anytime we close a polling location, we then add it to that closest vote center so that we can still continue to keep track of it. And it's just important to know, you know, what you can expect for voter turnout.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful that she has always kept that in her system that way.
I think it is kind of a good cross-check.
I do too. That way you're not surprised, and you can track the growth area.
Right.
I know that Benton County, they don't do it,
Oh, is that right?
and so you're just like, you think you know how many people, and you could look at the precincts around, but she can actually run me a report
Right.
by polling location that shows me the number of registered voters, so it's really nice.
That's good. Okay.
And I had to sit and Google how to figure the growth again, because it had been a while since I had done this one. I was like, how do I figure growth? I was like,
Yeah. It's, unless you do it every so often, those are the kind of things that you forget.
yeah, and I
Easily.
totally.
Did you have to make it?
God, I had
Did
to
you get it
make
all full?
Yeah, well,
That's
yeah,
what I
she
figured.
picked the size, it was.
Oh.
No, it was very nice of Jennifer at the clerk's office to let me borrow her cup. They didn't have any to-go cups.
Yeah, I noticed that the last time I was
I
up there.
just needed some coffee. I'm sorry, you guys.
That's all right.
I'm just dragging and
I
I needed to psych up here.
Apologize for being so late.
No, that's fine. It's.
I do that on Sundays at church, and my husband gets really mad at me because I step over him with a full cup of coffee, and he's like, "Don't spill it on me."
Risky.
Yeah, he's much less forgiving on things like that than he ought to be. Anyway, okay, well, let's call this meeting to order. I am, again, let me be on the record for saying I apologize for being late. First item is approving the minutes from the previous meeting. I know you gentlemen had time to look at the minutes.
Yeah, I mean.
Actually, I started chit-chatting when I got here.
Looks fine to me.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, well, the minutes are approved as presented, and we'll move on to certification of the June 21st Republican primary runoff, and that is, we've got numbers
You have
already
folders.
here
Yes,
and in the folders.
yes.
Okay.
And the
Oh,
one
yeah.
absentee ballot, that was still outstanding, the mail has already run, so that absentee ballot has not returned.
Nothing, okay.
So
All
nothing
right.
changes from yesterday.
Okay, super. All right, so these are the abstracts, and bunch of numbers. And, so we'll just sign it, and we'll be ready to go. And you'll fill in the
I'll
information
fill
that's
in, yes.
blank here.
Yeah. Josh explained to me when we were down there at one meeting why they do this abstract. It's so that every county submits their certification and it all looks exactly the same.
Oh.
And then they bind those into a record, and that's what they have to keep and they have to use, for their certification.
For perpetuity.
Mhm, yes, and that's why they look this way, and that way every county submits the same exact certification.
Yeah.
Because we have our own little document
Right.
we do, and if you had 75 counties submitting that, you'd have
In
75
different ways, yeah.
different ways of it,
Yeah.
so.
Well, do you always keep a digital copy of this stuff too?
So this one you can't keep a digital copy of. The way it, like, once you print it, you have to log back in, so I can't, like,
Oh.
download it. But I scan, like, once
Oh,
you,
gotcha.
once you sign this,
Mhm.
I scan everything, so that I have it, and then I have you sign multiple copies. So I send one to the state, I file one with Becky's office, and I actually keep a hard copy.
A hard copy, okay.
So,
Okay, good. Well, I'm just thinking if we ever had to refer to a past election, it would be good to
yeah,
not have to work through it all.
yeah.
Next, here you go. You're welcome.
And then the next one you have is the Washington County certification. That's just the one we've always
Oh, yeah.
created and filed with the clerk's office.
Okay, and these require a signature in the back?
Yes.
Yeah.
And once again, we just pull the information out of the, computer,
Mhm.
for the election night reporting, so that we're not
Okay.
transpose any numbers or,
Yeah,
or leave a candidate off or anything like that.
that's
So,
good. So this is basically just a duplication of what
Mhm.
has already been done.
Yes.
Great job.
Here's where.
One more. Okay.
And the third one that you have is the one that we'll file with the Republican Party listing
Okay.
candidates, that's for their records. And then they basically, in turn,
Send
file
it
that
to
back
the
to us.
state. Oh. Do they don't send a copy of this to the state?
These are only local candidates, so
Yeah.
I
Oh, gotcha.
don't
Yeah.
know about that part of it, but these are just the local candidates, because that's what the party will be responsible for submitting to the clerk, in August.
Okay, gotcha. Oh, and then we have the ballot disposition, yeah.
And that's for my signature, but it's also for you to review. This
Okay.
is just a summary of the, provisional ballots that we had and any absentee ballots that were rejected, and just a snapshot basically of the election. And so I've entered all those numbers in, and I will file this with the State Board of Election Commissioners.
Super. And these numbers all match
Yes,
what you've
it,
got.
and it has formulas in it that the state created, and so that is nice when you populate everything in,
yeah.
and then your final number matches that number, then you
Mhm.
know you have entered everything in correctly.
Good,
So,
good. Well, that's always a good sign when the numbers match. Okay, and then what do we have here? Is it-
Then, this is the reimbursement.
On the reimbursement,
Mhm.
okay.
The first one is just a letter that I will send to the city of Fayetteville. That is for the February the 8th election. I can only charge the city of Fayetteville for their portion of the election. The other portion, the county actually has to, absorb that cost. So I don't need the commission's signature for that one. But the other two, the one for the December 14th and January 11th elections, that is submitted to the State Board of Election Commissioners for their, review and for them to submit or for us to request reimbursement. I do need the commissioner's signatures on those two
Okay.
documents.
And this is basically a reworking of everything that you did in this election.
It is, so it's all the poll worker costs, it's the publication costs, it's any receipts we have, anything that's billable is all in there, and I have to submit all the documentation,
Okay.
For that as well.
Oh, and you've got it for the January
Yes.
11th as well?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes. And then I'll turn around and do the same report for the primary and the runoff election as well.
Not very readable.
No, it is not. It is not, no. But that's what they submit.
That's what-
I really
yeah.
think the affidavit is
Should
the
be
most
enough.
important
Yeah.
part of it.
Yeah.
But, they do, that comes with the affidavit, so I go ahead and.
Wow, okay. Gentlemen have a question on this while we're doing this. Please ask.
On the reimbursement?
Yeah.
No.
Did you have a chance to get some light reading at bedtime last night?
No, I didn't.
I didn't either.
The only thing I think they might deny me on, is for the December 14th election, I, requested reimbursement for the poll worker training.
Mm-hmm.
Poll workers are required to come in for
Right.
training once a year. I had the poll workers all come in. This was a state election, so I submitted the
Oh, yeah.
request for their training, hours in that request. I
Okay.
don't know if I'll get that or not, but
Yeah.
I did go ahead and submit it.
Okay.
Never know till you ask.
And
right.
that's what I think too. I
Mhm.
think, I'll submit anything I think that they
Mhm.
possibly might reimburse me for,
Mhm.
and then let them come back and tell me no.
Yeah,
Very good.
yeah.
Wow.
Oh, wait. Here. We'll keep this stuff together, but you guys look at it if you need to.
Here you go.
Okay. That's January the 11th, this
Okay.
is December the 14th. And then this actually goes on top. Even that much money?
Mm-mm. Because I can't seek reimbursement for every
On that
single
one.
thing.
Oh.
They don't match poll worker costs, so they
Yeah.
only reimburse me for $11. We pay our poll workers $11.30 and $12.30 an hour. I can only seek a maximum of 14 hours, so I can't seek
That's right,
reimbursement
yeah.
for the hours that they set up.
Right.
And so, like our delivery drivers, they're paid $16 an hour. They only
Mm.
let me reimburse for $11 an hour. So there's several things in there that we can't get full reimbursement for. That's why if you'll notice, the cost for the city of Fayetteville is almost equal to the cost of the
Oh, yeah,
December the
yeah.
14th. Because for the city of Fayetteville, I asked for the complete reimbursement,
Right.
$11.30 an hour, $16 an hour, and so forth, so yeah.
Excuse me. Well, that's, take notes on that stuff,
Mhm.
and let's, use that in our appeal to the state for higher reimbursement as time goes on. And actually, when you're, discussing with other counties, find out what they're paying their people, because I never thought ours was low. but, I mean, it'd be instructive to find out what other counties are paying their people.
Yeah, and I have talked to Benton County and Craighead County
Mhm.
and Pulaski County, and I think our 4 counties are gonna kind of put together something.
Oh, good.
The
Okay.
coordinators for the reimbursement,
Yeah,
so.
okay, super. Okay. Next item is, general election, early vote, and election day vote center locations. And you've got, you've actually got the map.
Yeah,
We don't have the big map that shows
I
everything.
do, I brought it
Yeah.
Oh, there it
in,
is.
yeah, so you can see that as well. And I thought we could just do the election day one
Okay.
first,
Yeah.
is that,
I, will say, and this is just my observation, but I don't feel like Cross Church had a very good setup the last time we were over there.
no, I agree, I'm not a fan of going back to Cross Church,
Okay.
even though it is very close.
Yeah.
I prefer us to go back to Temple Baptist.
Oh, that's what it was, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So if we're looking at Springdale Rec Center, if we're
Yeah.
to move from Springdale Rec Center,
Mhm.
Cross Church, which is very close to it, and then Temple Baptist Church, which is less than a mile away from Springdale Rec Center, I think, would welcome us back.
Okay, you haven't talked to them
I
yet,
have
though.
not talked to them.
Okay.
I feel like today's discussion is preliminary for the
Yeah.
commission to not
Right,
make any decisions,
right.
but to give me direction
Mhm.
and say, yes, we want to move forward with this. I also want to visit with Springdale Rec Center to, just to talk to them, but I don't see how they can unschedule basketball practice and soccer games and everything that goes on in there.
Mhm.
It just does not work. It worked during COVID
Yeah.
because you didn't have basketball
point,
practice,
yeah,
and you didn't have
right.
football practice, or soccer and all of that.
Mhm.
So if we were looking at replacing Springdale Rec, Temple Baptist would be my suggestion.
Okay. They've got a pretty good setup there, if they haven't changed anything.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's easily, I think it's easy to find.
Mhm.
It's still in a high-traffic area.
Good parking lot.
Good parking lot. It's right off of Don Tyson. So, yeah. And it's close to Tyson too. I mean,
Yeah.
so,
That's true.
the feedback I've received from Springdale Rec is, it is an older population that is voting there, and they,
Springdale Rec
at
Center?
Springdale Rec Center. That's the feedback I've gotten from the supervisors, and the complaints that they have received have been from the voters feeling like they have to walk such a long way to get to where we're at inside the building, and then, of course, with the construction last time.
Right.
I mean, construction is temporary.
Construction is temporary, I agree.
How far is it that they're actually walking compared to other ones? I'm trying to remember.
There's a driveway that you can't park at from the, and then the entrance, but the parking is kind of back, right?
It
And
is.
you've got to walk over a curb and down another curb and then up another curb.
And we have to do our handicap accessible entrance in another location.
Oh, do you
Because
really?
of the handicap parking, so
Ah.
and then they put us in a different spot every time.
Yeah.
We were in the gymnasium this time, and so basically you walk through the whole, thing.
It's a lot of walking if you're elderly and not able to walk very far.
So, but that's the feedback, that's the one site that I have gotten feedback from, that the voters have complaints about it. We don't get a lot of complaints about our polling locations, but this one,
Well, how many voters is it? And I asked just because, is this a couple people and then the supervisor's just good at relaying the concerns to you? Or is it,
it's a couple.
like a couple dozen people?
Yeah, it's a couple of voters each election, but the supervisors have expressed concerns each election that were there about the location. And it's not the location, it's the inside of
Right.
it.
Well, and a big part of that, at least in my experience from being over there, is the noise level. It's a building with a huge, not really a ceiling exactly, but it just echoes and it, you know, any noise in there is gonna carry a long way.
Right. Now, if we had the whole facility to ourselves,
Right, it
that's,
might be.
that's a different scenario, but
Mhm.
we've had to share it, for this past election, and then for the May election in 2020,
Mhm.
we've had to share it with soccer and basketball and other things that
And
are
they
going
can
on
get
at the
really
facility.
noisy.
There's no
Yeah.
separate room in there that they can give us that we can use.
The basketball gym is the closest, but even at that, they'll sometimes schedule like a little basketball, because they'll only give us part of it. We don't have the whole part of it.
Yeah.
And in part, I don't know if those teams pay. I don't know how that works, if they pay to schedule time to be on the court or to use the facility. I'm not 100%
Well, they
sure.
probably did when it was, the privately owned, but now isn't it Springdale that owns it?
Yes, it is, but their league, you know, so the league
Yeah.
pays, the league schedules, like, you know, like with baseball, when you're playing baseball,
Right.
you have your time
Yeah.
to have, you know, to have the baseball field and all of that. So it's not to say that we want to walk away from this, I want to have a discussion, but I do feel like if we do move from Springdale Rec, Temple Baptist is our best option in this
Mhm.
area.
Okay. Have you ever talked with the people at Robinson Avenue Church of Christ? Which is right east of the rec center, it's on Robinson Avenue, clearly. And there's actually two churches right there. One of them is south of the road and one is north of the road, in proximity to Walmart.
Okay.
And I don't know what either one of their facilities are like, but potentially, there's Robinson Avenue, and you know what the name of the other one is?
There's one that's close that is Springdale First Assembly.
That's it.
That's the other one I thought
Yeah,
was close.
yeah.
And I am more than happy but I want to make sure if I'm visiting with these churches,
Yeah.
that the commission, like, we're all on the same page on this.
Mhm.
But I'm more than.
Maybe, I'm not 100% committed right now to
Right.
moving from the rec center.
Are you
So,
not?
I mean, I wanna talk about it more.
Yeah,
And I've been up
yeah.
there, but I'm trying to remember what it was like, I don't
Right.
remember the exact.
I don't
exact
feel like,
issue.
at least in front, it doesn't appear to me like they've got the amount of parking spaces. You have to be aware to go around, if you want more parking.
There's no way, because they've got a big parking lot, but there's no way to get through that back
Right.
entrance.
Well,
Is that the deal?
that's part of the problem, and so then that door, then you have to walk all the way through to get into the basketball court, which is where we're at. And so, but then so for handicap parking, we have to have it on one side or the other. It can't be,
Yeah.
it's just not consistent. But I will go back to visit with Springdale Rec Center and kind of visit with them about usage.
Mhm.
Can we have the whole space? How long is construction?
Right.
Because if construction is still going into November,
Mhm.
that'll be an issue as well.
Right.
Where are the numbers of who voted recently? Because I want to look at the numbers,
So it's,
who voted there, and then other places.
so it's this sheet here, so I have,
This isn't just voter registration numbers, these are turnout numbers.
this is turnout numbers,
Oh,
this is
okay.
everything. So
Okay.
this has the registered voters, it has your general election, and your primaries on there.
Thank you.
And so Springdale Rec,
Significant number of voters.
it is, I mean, so we have to have a
Yeah, a lot of
site.
voters, that's the only hesitation. You want something in central Springdale that is
Yeah,
easy for
right.
people that they know about. I mean,
Right.
that's my only hesitation about
Mhm.
moving it. How long have we been there?
We've been there since we didn't move in 2018, did we?
I'm thinking It hasn't been that long, maybe
No.
a couple of major elections.
Yeah.
Was it at Cross Church before that?
Cross Church is
Yeah.
where it was at.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
got it.
and how long ago did we leave Temple?
Yeah, that was.
That was back in 2016.
Okay.
When we went to vote centers,
Mhm.
that was when we closed, Temple Baptist.
Okay.
Because we're providing more opportunities for people to vote with vote centers.
Yeah.
Right.
And that we didn't need as many locations.
Because we
Yeah.
had Cross Church and Temple Baptist, which
Mhm.
was a mile apart from one
Right.
another, and then Nazarene was a little bit further down on 40th and
Oh,
Chapman.
yeah.
So it was like, of that triangle,
Mhm.
we closed
Yeah.
one
Okay.
of them. So they do have a significant amount of voters, which is to say we definitely have to have something in that area.
Mhm.
You know,
What was the turnout at Temple Baptist like? That was back
I don't
before
have,
vote
too far
center.
back.
Yeah, and
it's not on.
yeah, well, I would have combined it with the Springdale rec numbers, because that's where we pushed the voters
Yeah.
Yeah.
from there, so I don't necessarily have it
That's
marked
okay.
here.
That's okay.
Well, the thing is, Nazarene is not that far away. And, there are a lot of pluses about Nazarene that you don't have if you're thinking Cross Church. I feel like Temple still has some pretty good, positives there if they haven't changed their configuration.
Right, I agree, and I would just need to visit with the churches,
Mhm.
and obviously I wanna visit with Springdale rec, but.
And they may not even be available after all this time.
No, they may not, but I thought, you know, since we've been there before,
Right.
they would be an easy first look,
Yeah.
at a location.
Right.
Well, I mean, I think we need to talk about it also if you're bringing up Archer Learning Center.
Oh, good point,
Talk
yeah.
about it in the same
Yeah, that
context.
has to be,
Because those are two locations right in central Springdale. I don't-
right.
You know, we don't like to change polling locations, but.
But if we're not
Yes,
welcome,
multiple ones
if we're not welcome at
at
Archer.
the same time.
Archer, my biggest concern is not being able to open at 7:30.
Yeah.
They
And
just need to get somebody there earlier, so they just didn't
they,
show up until
Nope.
7:25.
yep,
And you told them 6:30.
we had multiple conversations with them.
Why?
We had emergency
Like, why did they
contact.
not show up?
The guy
There
was
wasn't
not in town, it was, so we don't, I mean, they didn't really give us a good reason, like, you know, I had a
Yeah.
flat tire, I was rushing my pregnant
Right.
wife to the hospital, that kind of thing. We've had multiple conversations with them about the necessity to be in there by
Mhm.
6:30.
Sure,
Mhm.
yeah.
And, the fact that we don't have access on our own,
Because it's a school,
'Cause
they
it's
won't
a
give us
school.
the key.
exactly,
Yeah.
we rely on someone to let us in, then that means that our opening is in their hands.
Yeah.
And if we don't open up a polling location at 7:30, that's one of the things that we can be, you know,
Sure.
written up about.
Penalized
People can file a
for,
complaint
yeah,
about,
sure.
that's a valid complaint, you know.
Mhm.
Having a polling location like at Springdale Rec where a voter has to walk an extra 10, 15 feet, okay, that's not violating any election laws.
Mhm.
Not being open at 7:30
Yes.
would violate an election law. And so that,
For sure, it's problematic.
it worries me that we wouldn't be able to, you know, we were lucky and we had a good team. He had everything set up. We were able to be open
Yeah.
at 7:30. Fortunately, they had no voters till 10. I mean, you know, like, a lot of things played into our hands, but we won't get that lucky twice.
Right,
Well, how
right.
many times does that happen? Did it only happen once?
Yes, but if it,
Significant.
I mean, this is the first time, yes, that we've not been in there by 6:30. But it is hard for us to get in touch with someone to drop off
Right.
deliveries, and so, you know,
Is that the only location currently that is a school that
Mhm.
we're in?
it
And
is-
we've tried to avoid being in school districts or in the, local buildings.
Just because they don't want us there.
Well, mostly that, and because it becomes a question of security when you have voters coming into a building where, you know, just to vote, but where potentially you could have, somebody who is restricted from being in a school.
It's more, yeah, but it's the school security concern.
Yeah,
They don't want to put
yeah.
voters coming on campus in their
Yeah.
buildings. I get it,
Yeah.
yeah.
May I ask a more generic 5,000-foot question about this,
Yeah.
this whole
Please do.
set of data? Am I reading this correctly, that in the general elections, the consistent reduction in the number of votes, number of people voting all across the board, from beginning where we have data here, 2012 to 2020?
Yes, that is correct.
Do you have any
I think it's
concept of what the...
early voting.
It's early votes,
It's-
hands down early votes.
Because I think I got
So
a,
this is on day of election, but...
yeah.
Yes.
Because we only had, like, back in 2012, two early vote sites, I think.
Oh, that's right.
Okay. So
Yeah.
You see how just asking a question can show how dumb you are for
No,
not
that
getting
has-
some information?
That
No,
has
it's
nothing to
just-
do with being
It's just the
done.
history. Ask as many questions
Yeah.
as you want, Jim. You haven't been on the commission as long as we have. We just have the benefit of having been around a while.
So,
It's good information to know.
yeah, that's good to know. I mean, I was getting kind of scared of this stuff. Scared me.
Why does the turnout keep dropping? Yeah.
I do think another interesting thing when you do look at the overall, our general elections, we tend to have a 50% or higher early vote. Primaries, we still have we've not hit that 50% mark for early votes. So we still have a good voter turnout for the primary. So our primary numbers probably are higher than what our election day numbers will be for the general election at the individual polling locations. So yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Well, I will say, for me, I feel like Archer is maybe the first site. Well, I mean, you've got Weddington Fire, and we haven't really discussed that.
Right,
But
yeah.
I feel like Archer is the place to begin if we can eliminate it. Is that the place where, no, it was at the library that you said somebody wondered why we were there?
Was Archer.
It was Archer.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was Archer. So Archer, of course, used to be the youth center.
Right.
And the city owned it at that time, and then it now is part of the Springdale School District. And so that's part of the reason why we don't have a key for it. Now, for the general election, will we probably be able to get in there at 6:30? Yes, school's in session. So the likelihood of them having someone at the school at 6:30 is greater than what we experienced June 21st because school's not in session, although they were having summer school at the time.
Oh.
So I worry about us running the risk of not being open at 7:30 at a location. I agree we should have something in that area.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't think we should just walk away from this area of Springdale. I think that we need something in this area of Springdale. It's not on this map, Emmanuel Baptist Church, which is less than a mile away from Archer. But funnily enough, I got a phone call from a former poll worker yesterday who said that the American Legion would be open and available for us to use for voting if we were interested in the American Legion in Springdale.
And that's right.
It is
Right
less,
across from the police.
I did
Yeah.
notice that too.
Yeah.
I had no idea when he called me where it was at, but it's 1.1 mile away from
How's the parking there?
Archer. He thought the parking would be fine. He thought the size of it. He used to be our supervisor at Nazarene, but he no longer works for us
Gotcha.
anymore.
Okay.
And he called me yesterday just out of the blue and said, if you're interested, we would be willing to have you at the American Legion.
Well, it's just mostly just an open room.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's what he said. I told him I would love to come and look at it, just to see, you know, you just never know. So I will arrange a meeting to, obviously, to go and visit with him. And most likely we would be able to have a key.
Ah.
So that's the only reason I've kind of looked at American Legion, because it does keep us from being in just another church too.
Right.
You know, I
Or
know
a
that-
school.
Or a school, I know that sometimes that's a concern for voters.
Yeah.
There's just not enough community centers for us to not be
Right.
in churches. And it would conceivably, because it is the American Legion, be a site that we could be in long-term.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
if you were moving the Shiloh Museum, it's just right down the road, right?
Yeah.
Right,
It's
and,
just right there.
and didn't we feel like the Shiloh Museum was,
That
Didn't do
was
very well.
not
Well, that was
productive.
early vote.
Oh, that's right, that was
Yeah, that
early.
was limited early vote, but if this is a polling location,
mm-hmm,
this
Well,
would be a
You could
change.
still do like a couple days early vote and then
Mhm.
the election day.
mm-hmm.
Maybe, I don't know,
Maybe the thing is to help
or
people
just
get
early vote, I
familiar
don't
with
know.
it.
maybe, yeah.
Yeah, we could treat it like we treat Lincoln, where we
Oh, yeah.
set up like 2 days, like the Thursday, Friday of early vote.
Yeah.
If
And
they
then
would
it's
go
set
for
up.
it,
I
you know, I
think
don't know if they have any events on.
I will
Weekends,
visit
yeah.
with Joe and, see what he has to say, but,
They have a monthly meeting, and they have a regular pancake breakfast at some point, but I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
but I would also see that they would think of this as kind of a patriotic
Right.
duty, civic
Right.
duty type
Yeah,
of thing, and,
American Legion huts are struggling to get recognition, and it would be
Mm,
a way for them, obviously, to have people. walk in.
exposure in the
I
community,
mean, how
yeah.
many people in this room knew where the American Legion hut was?
I didn't, when he
Not
called
me.
me, I had no idea where it was at. I knew what it
I know where it
was.
used to be, on 71.
It's on Spring Street right across.
Yeah, now it's moved out.
I knew what the American Legion was, but I had no idea
Yeah.
where it was located.
Well, I think what you need right now is some guidance on which way to go with this.
Could I have maybe a quick review of what we're trying to accomplish for sure, so I understand?
Good question.
So,
You keep telling me that.
No, it is, no, for real, no, for real. No, but what is the goal? That's a good question. Yeah, I agree, Jim. Yeah, what is the goal?
So, for our office, these two polling locations in Springdale present problems
We're
for us.
talking about.
Archer and,
The rec.
the rec center.
Springdale Rec, yeah.
Two different types of problems.
Okay.
One, for Archer, was not being able to get in there until 7:25. And for me, that
And not
is
having a key.
not
to the
having
door.
our own access, not having, you know, so.
And maybe
will that
not
happen?
feeling welcome there.
Will that happen again? I don't know, but that is a big risk to take,
Yeah, it is.
being in a location and
We
making
can't be in
sure.
that position.
Right.
Yeah.
For Springdale Rec, I've heard it from the supervisors since we've moved there.
Mhm.
They just are not crazy about that location, and there are some of our supervisors who are younger,
Mhm.
who work early vote for us, and so they've just, the noise level, they've always complained about in there, and then I've gotten complaints from voters. So is there another alternative for us to look at?
That would be better.
That would be better, I don't know. And so that would be my goal, is to make sure that for the general election, we have our best site
Right.
available for voters. So that's why I brought it to the commission.
So why are we highlighting this Weddington Fire and Yvonne Richardson on this?
So Weddington Fire and Yvonne Richardson Center have two different types of issues. One, Weddington Fire is having enough poll workers from that community to work. And I basically have no poll workers that live in that area that work there. And so if we're going to close any polling locations for lack of poll workers, we need to set like a time frame. I'm not advocating to say we're gonna close it today, but we need to say by like August 30th, I need to know I have enough poll workers, and if I don't have enough poll workers, we'll have to close it.
Well, it's a natural attrition that we've done in the past, where if they can't get poll workers there, then it's like, well, we challenge you.
Yeah.
If you can get them, we'll stay open, but if you can't get them, it's pretty inconvenient to get somebody from North Springdale to drive all the way to Brentwood.
Yeah, and that's the problem I'm running into.
Logistically difficult and
Yeah.
creates additional hurdles for Jennifer to
Do you need
keep it
our,
up on election day.
something from us to approve that plan, that by August, whatever?
Well, I would like the commission to like, let's all kind of decide on a deadline. September the 7th is the election commission meeting I have for, vote site approval.
Okay.
So that's for the general election. But if we say by August 30th,
Mm-hmm.
that, because when we meet,
You have
I
it
would like
nailed
to have.
down.
Yeah, I would like to have a proposal for the
Yeah.
commission. That's kind of like our deadline, or if you want to set it earlier,
Yeah.
or whatever, but I feel like, I don't want to ever catch the commission unaware of situations that we're having, finding poll workers or
Is
locations.
August the 30th an acceptable date for you?
I'm thinking that may be a little late if you, because you have to have discussions with replacement sites if indeed we're trying to find a way to replace somebody.
Right.
So I'm thinking maybe the middle of August.
Okay.
Your thoughts? Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that sounds fine.
Maybe like August the 15th.
Uh-huh. Make that, you can give yourself some wiggle room there, but I think if there's any doubt, especially given that Yvonne Richardson is having construction, and maybe that construction gets delayed, or maybe it gets done quicker than they expected.
Are we talking waiting to hire Yvonne Richardson for this date? I thought we were just talking.
Well, I was just using that as an example.
Okay.
Yeah,
It
give
could
us
be.
the rundown on Yvonne Richardson again. quickly.
Yvonne Richardson Center, the only reason I have it flagged is because we know that they are getting a vast improvement of the Richardson Center. And we knew the construction wouldn't start before the May primary, but there's a good possibility it may start before the general election. If that's the case, we may not be able to use Yvonne Richardson Center because we may just not have access to it at all, but I need to confirm with the city and see what the city's plan will be for Yvonne Richardson Center. But we also may have to, it may be one of those things, we may have to make a decision. They may tell us the construction is gonna start November 1st, but we have to make our decision
Before that.
by September the 7th. And so that is, just kind of something for us to be aware
Right.
of.
So, if we are unable to use Yvonne Richardson, are we thinking that there's another place to go, or we would just have to shut it down for this election?
My suggestion would be to shut it down for this election. Genesis, is so close to Yvonne Richardson Center that it would be the natural, place to push those voters. If you'll notice, in 2020, for the general election, they had 195 voters vote
Oh, yeah.
at Yvonne Richardson Center. That's because the biggest majority of those voters are voting early. Because if you think about Yvonne Richardson Center
Yeah.
and some of those precincts that are attached to it, it is,
Here.
the courthouse is in that voting district area. So, my suggestion would be just to move those voters to Genesis, for the time being, and not try and come up with another polling location for that.
So, we just have to find out what the city's plans are as far as, putting it under construction, and if it's gonna be available. If it's not, just need us to agree that we'll just shut it down this time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, I think having these discussions early helps us so that September 7th, we're not having to make a bunch of decisions that we haven't thoroughly looked
Right.
at the plan.
So, I mean, Weddington Fire and Yvonne Richardson, we kind of know the deal there.
Yeah.
Like the scope of work and what's gonna dictate our decision.
Right.
Mhm.
Archer and Springdale Rec Center are more up in the air. How long have we been at Archer / the Learning Center,
So-
or Youth Center?
We never moved out, so once it was the youth center,
Yeah.
Right.
it became Archer, we transitioned, we stayed there, we never were not in,
Is it like
that
a
facility.
decade, 2 decades? I mean, it's been a long time,
yeah,
right?
since
Yeah,
I've
it's been
been
a
here,
long
we've
time.
always been at the youth
Yeah.
center, so that's 15 years at least.
So, I mean,
So-
I hate to move a polling location that's been there that long. Look, I agree, the 725 is unacceptable. And I
Well-
don't know why they showed up that late, you know. I
Take
don't
a
know what
look
the
at-
deal was. I don't know if somebody told them, oh, we really just need to be in there by 7:30, and they got there right at the end. I have no idea.
Take a look at this chart, which I think is illuminating.
This is the registered voters, right?
Yeah, the growth in the area
Yeah.
and the,
You don't have a lot of new voters who are gonna go there apparently, I mean, if they're gonna go someplace in Springdale,
Well, that's just the folks assigned to it, right?
Elmdale.
right.
Yeah.
Those are just the voter registration numbers, right?
Right, but right, so in theory, you could have a larger growth in that area, but you're not gonna have new construction in that area.
True, yeah.
That's like established
True.
neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Sure.
You're not gonna have new growth in new people moving in,
Mhm.
you're just replacing people who live there, moving in and out kind of thing.
We just don't have that many locations in central Springdale.
Yeah, right.
No.
And I think, you know, I wanna have a location in central Springdale that's convenient to do.
Right,
Especially
yeah.
one that people have been voting at for decades.
Right,
I hate to move
But-
it, and I'll say that, you know, couple of things. These 2 locations are non-church locations.
I know.
Yeah,
And-
right.
And also, I'll say Archer Center, that serves a diverse community, like from all
Yeah.
ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
You know, when I go up there are folks who've been voting there clearly for decades, and then there are folks who were,
Right.
you know, a lot younger and from
Yeah.
Springdale High School who've come
Right.
down and voted. And
Yes.
I've seen all types of folks there. So,
My
you know,
biggest thing is and I don't remember who it was that you said just was not terribly cooperative or whatever. You used to have somebody else, a contact there that was all embracing, correct?
Yeah, and I don't know if it's just because, you know, the May election is hard.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
for the school district, at that time period, and I can completely understand, we are end-of-year testing and graduation. And so here's us coming knocking
Yeah.
on the door
Yeah.
saying, hey, we need to set up our polling location. So I completely understand, like, the school,
Sure.
like, at that point of time, the school district is completely overwhelmed with everything that we're doing, and then we're gonna add one more thing
Right.
to the school district.
In the middle.
In the middle
Yeah.
of all of that.
Yeah.
So I completely can see that concern,
Mhm.
because it's like, oh, one more thing for me to have to do. In November, it's different.
Yeah.
We're not testing, we're not graduating, school will be fully in session. And so, but I do want, you know, full disclosure, if we're not open by 7:30, that is a major problem.
But we have to be open
For
by then. I mean, if I need to, if you wanna send me the number of whoever to talk to, I'm happy to have a
Yeah.
frank conversation with them. and-
attorney.
Well, no, but I mean,
No, I
for
know.
real, you
Yeah,
know, like,
yeah, I know
I'll
what
talk
you're
to
saying.
somebody and, hey, and I know you
But
have, and
you're
it's not that I don't,
It's a
Believe-
different level.
you know,
Yeah,
like,
Yeah.
yeah, but
So I
look,
just-
this is what we need. If you're not gonna give this to us and you don't
Right.
really want us there,
Right.
that's fine, tell
And I
us.
wish they would
You know,
say that.
but maybe that's not the case.
The
Yeah,
election
yeah,
commission is
yeah,
having
good point.
a discussion on whether or not we need to move.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Do we need to move?
I think,
Yeah, yeah,
I think the
exactly.
thing is,
I don't know what happened with being open that late, if it was a
In-
miscommunication or somebody messed up, I don't know.
in
But
your
I agree that can
discussion,
happen.
if you felt at all as if we don't need to be there because y'all don't want us there. That, to me, communicates a lot. Just tell me that you don't want to be there, that you don't want us there. I would prefer that over, a kind of an attitude, we're doing this under duress. And, you know, we can go elsewhere. At this point, I don't know if we can find elsewhere in that particular area, but.
Well, here's the question then, on that
Yeah.
particular point.
Uh-huh.
Should she call, the other, was it church that you mentioned?
Temple?
Yeah, and find out if there's a possibility. Should we know that before we have to make a decision?
Or wait, that was for Springdale Rec,
For
wasn't it?
Springdale Rec. I mean,
But I do agree for Springdale Rec. I mean, look, I'm open, we haven't been there as long, I'm open to
Right,
moving the
right,
location,
true.
we've got problems. I agree
True.
though, Jim, we've gotta find out what other options we have, when we're thinking about moving that one at the same time,
yeah.
whether it's Temple or somewhere else.
Sound like Archer is good for, November, if we can confirm that we can be in there early enough to open up.
Yeah.
With no last minute, oh, whoops.
Right. And I will reach out to the school district, but, you know, we have to prepare ourselves that, you know, we had this situation, we don't want this situation to occur again, and we need reassurances, you know, that this situation won't occur again. You know, and then with Springdale Rec, I would like to visit with the city and just talk to them about the possibility of not having basketball games, or not having soccer practice, or not having, I don't know, I think that one's a harder one, because they have those schedules set and all of that. So Springdale Rec may be, you know, it may just be easier for us to move to a location, so.
Well, I mean, make the ask, but otherwise I'm open to another location. But we should explore, as you guys suggested, other, you know, what's the best possible spot in that whole location that we would feel good about being long-term, if we're considering moving.
Yeah.
So maybe it's Temple, but maybe it's something else.
Well, and
don't
I can visit with the other two churches as well. Temple Baptist, I just know we've been there, we left on good terms. So I
They
don't.
didn't ask us to leave.
No, they didn't. We have been asked. to
I
leave
know,
before.
What'd you do?
It was a change in bureaucracy, let's say.
So, yeah, and I, you know, one of the things, you know, I had talked about a resolution, you know, thanking these facilities, because all of these facilities work with our time schedule and our delivery schedule, and have to make someone available for us, and and they don't charge us anything, and they do this out of, you know, out of a civic duty. So I do think, you know, that, it's important to recognize what how they contribute to us, you know, but we have to make good decisions on our.
Yeah, we need to
where we're
pursue
at.
that too.
Yeah.
We don't have to do it today, but we do need
And
to
you are
do
gonna
that.
pursue the, Springdale American Legion?
Yes, oh, I will visit with Joe Dunn. He will be super, he was one of my supervisors. I was so sad when he couldn't work anymore, and he calls me periodically, asks questions, and he just happened to call me yesterday and talk to me about the American Legion, and so, yeah, he'll be more than pleased to meet with me, and we'll look at the site, so.
When you-
Because that way, if they can't guarantee that we can get open on time at Archer, at least you have something.
Yeah.
When you talk to Archer, I think you should just present them with the question. We didn't feel like we were particularly welcome last time. Is that the general gist of it? And if so, we can pull back.
Yeah.
But it may just have been somebody's off day.
Right, and like I said, they
We may just need a better contact there.
Yeah.
That
able
too,
to-
that too,
who-
yeah.
Who you know, knows.
Somebody reliable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah, exactly.
I mean, I don't know that the person wasn't reliable, but
Yeah, but,
apparently they
you know,
hadn't gotten the memo.
Somebody who's gonna be there, you know.
Yes,
and-
right,
Yeah.
right.
I know I've asked this before, but, there's no bond issue on the horizon for Springdale Library or anything like that, and there's no
Boy.
viable location
Mm-mm.
I
within the
would,
library.
I would be more
Because
than.
it's right across the park, it's
Exactly.
right there,
Yeah.
it'd be great, you
I
know?
will visit with the library and see, I don't think they've done any expansion though.
They're
since
just
I've been
squeezed
there.
to the rafters,
Yeah,
and,
They
but,
need a bond issue then, Bentonville's doing one for their
Are they?
library.
Oh.
Yeah, right?
and look
Yeah.
at Fayetteville's library.
yeah,
Oh, if
exactly.
Springdale
Yes,
Library would
exactly.
expand, it would be great. I will visit with Springdale Library, to see, because if you look at, the turnout that
Oh,
we
yeah.
have at Archer,
mhm,
it was 322 voters in 2020, 736 in 2018.
mhm.
So let's just say we split it in the middle, and there's about 500 voter turnout over a 14-hour day.
Right.
Is there space in the Springdale Library where we could process 500 voters? There's a possibility that maybe there is. I haven't been to the Springdale Library in a long time.
Parking is definitely a problem.
Yeah, that's true, I
It's,
remember that.
because of the use that it gets, the parking lot is
Yeah.
pretty awful.
And sometimes there are hours, like for instance,
Mhm,
I sometimes think Fayetteville Public Library would be a great
mhm.
location for an election day site
Mm.
too, but their hours don't match the hours we would need to be open. And so, I don't know what Springdale's library hours
I don't either.
are at this point.
I
So,
pretty
yeah.
much, I mean,
Oh,
I've gone to Springdale Library since 1977, and it has changed dramatically, but I don't like to go there anymore because the parking is so awful that, and honestly, I mean, part of that is, they have a lot of usage, a lot of people there, and I think that's great. It wasn't always that way. But that is gonna be a big problem. I feel like in the old days, they had a community room. They don't have it anymore.
Oh, they don't?
No.
See, I've been, and that's the one, yeah.
expansion.
And it wasn't that big, but it was big enough you
Right.
could have
Yeah.
a small meeting.
Well, check
And-
it out if you're going up there.
Yeah,
Confirm
yeah,
it.
well, I don't
Bill.
go there anymore.
Yeah. Or Jennifer, if you're going to the American Legion.
Yeah,
check
you
it all
can
out.
check that, that's true. But,
I just hate to go to a library. Well, I have to update my library card.
Yeah.
well, yeah, that's true. They do ask for that anymore, and I'm with the days when you just went in and checked out a book.
Yep,
Forget this.
so.
Bring us your ID stuff, as if. All right, so essentially, we're sending you on a mission, a fact-finding mission, and we're not actually resolving anything except that we're acknowledging these 4 locations could cause us problems in November. We've got to resolve it before November, before, September the 7th, I believe is what you said.
That's when the commission will vote.
We've got to decide.
Right, August 15th will be my internal deadline to
Okay.
have everything. The other thing I'm gonna do too is make sure for our smaller polling locations, that they have enough poll workers
Yeah.
too. Hopefully I don't bring you more sites, but we do need to confirm that, like, our smaller areas, have enough poll workers for the general election as well.
Are you in the back of your mind thinking of anything that could be a red flag at this point?
Ray's Mill and Weddington Community Building, both, Ray's Mill had enough poll workers for the general, but then when we turned for the runoff, or for the primary, the runoff election, they didn't have enough, but he's been recruiting, so hopefully we'll have enough for Ray's Mill. Weddington Community Building, they have a great crew there.
Mhm.
But there's only 4 of them.
Ooh.
So if one of them
Get
can't
sick.
work
Yeah.
in general election, we have to borrow from another location.
Oh, okay.
Technically, the 3 ladies there, 3 of them could run that whole site, but we have to have 4.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of making sure that they all can work the general election.
Okay. So hopefully that'll work out, but, and hopefully we won't have any other site that will.
Yeah,
run into
but I
issues.
do wanna make that confirmation.
Off with them all, yeah, okay. Okay, what else in this regard? I know you've got this vote center chart here. Was that just for reference, or?
That's just so you could kind of see where the growth area is. I was a little surprised by some of the areas that had more registered voters and some of the areas that seem to have lost registered voters.
Yeah, if you look at the ref in Cross Church area, minus 357.
Yeah.
6%.
But then you look at the
Dang.
Tawny Town, look at that growth in that area
Oh, my God,
right there.
yeah.
This wouldn't have changed at all based on any redistricting thing.
No, this is just strictly the amount of registered voters in these areas, so yeah.
If you go out towards Tawny Town, you'll notice a whole lot more building going on too.
Yeah.
So that number is going to continue
Yeah, that is a lot of
to
growth.
rise.
Yeah.
The construction just south of
Hmm.
the ballpark, I don't know how many apartments are in the complexes that they're putting in there, but there's a lot of apartments.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the same is true off 112 and the housing just north, or I guess I should say the, open meadows just north of the, landfill
Yeah.
are filling with houses,
Yeah.
just wall to wall. So that's gonna continue to grow.
Yeah.
Okay, so we did a lot of talk, did we kind of mix our talk between early vote and voting day?
We did a little bit, early vote, we still, I'm assuming the commission is okay with the early vote sites we had for the primary, that will maintain those for the general. That would be Covenant, Medical Arts, Tawny Town, Elmdale, Baptist Church, Elkins, Prairie Grove, and Westfork, and Quorum Court. Those are our standard ones. The limited early voting, I am working with Bud Walton, probably once people get back, middle of July, I'll probably have some dates, hopefully, for us for Bud Walton. Rise Physical Therapy, even though we were only open 2 days, in the primary, it just is a great location for us.
It did a good number.
It did, it did 119, in those 2 days that we were open, and that's for a primary election, you know?
Yeah, good point.
Yep.
So that is good. I just don't have those numbers plugged into this, but, and it just, with that Walmart being there.
Oh,
it's just
yeah.
Yeah.
a naturally good place for us. The library, it ended up doing 212 for the 3 days we were there at the library.
Very good.
And so I thought those numbers were good, and so I'd like to go back to the library again. They've confirmed the dates they have available would be the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of the first week of early voting for us.
Oh, okay.
Those are the dates they have.
They have available. That calendar, that room, I mean,
Really?
I should, if we like the library and want to stay, I should go ahead and confirm for
Good point.
2024.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah.
The dates we would like to be in there, because it just.
Give them a heads up.
It
Yeah,
looks
do it
up.
every time. Is there any opportunity, like you mentioned, to do it 2 days before early vote and then election day?
Not,
You know?
the library's hours don't, they would have to open early. I think the library doesn't
They
open
wouldn't be
till
able
8 or
to-
9,
Yeah,
and early votes, or election day starts at 7:30.
and they'd have to basically open the whole thing up to,
Yeah, so I don't
Accommodate
know,
us,
I mean,
yeah.
that's definitely something to look at. I think it's a good site for us.
Yeah.
just with all of them, I mean, something
Yeah.
to think about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's easier for people to think, oh, I could go these days,
Consistency.
or election day,
Yeah,
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 exactly.
yeah.
Same with, American Legion, you know,
Mhm,
whatever,
mhm.
yeah.
And then Lincoln Community Center, we're open the second week, that Thursday, Friday. I know that will be available for us too, and it did 148, in the 2 days it was open in Lincoln. But what that does for us on election day is alleviate the amount of voters in
Yeah,
those areas.
that's great. Yeah.
So I think it's definitely something, the one that.
Serving that community.
Mhm, yeah.
Yeah.
The one, that Shiloh Meeting Hall, it did 52 voters. I don't know about, is it worth it to try it again for the general election, or to maybe pull it off? It is, and maybe there's something else for us to look at.
Yeah, maybe if you got the
Limited.
American Legion, it would be a trade-off.
Yeah, I agree.
So, that one I'm kind of, up in the air about.
Ask them if they could do it on the couple days before election day and election day.
The American Legion.
Yeah, why not, you know?
Yeah.
If we're thinking about moving Shiloh, moving right
Right,
down the road
right.
and.
Well, I
throwing
mean,
election
my
day.
sense is we don't really want to go back to Shiloh because it just didn't seem to
Yeah,
satisfy the
Produce any.
need.
yeah.
Jim? I'm not trying to shut you out if you've got comments.
Oh, don't worry, if I have a comment, I try to bide my time.
I understand. Bring those pearls out when you're ready.
And by far, of course, the Quorum Court is
Mm.
still our number one early vote site. It did 4,094 votes
Yeah.
for the primary election. We do have two things that I've already kind of sent a note to Julie about. The Monday, the last day of early vote is typically they're scheduled for jail and for personnel. And then election day is finance. And so I need to get with Julie and coordinate to see if the
Mhm.
Quorum Court can move those meetings, for us to be able to be there for early vote and then for election night.
Move them down here, we'll trade them.
Didn't we get a resolution, or did that ever get into?
So we did get an ordinance passed allowing the Quorum Court meeting to move because.
During early vote?
During early vote, because
Oh.
that is in the ordinances when
Right.
those meetings are. They can cancel finance committee
Or
and the other
relocate.
meetings. I mean, obviously, I don't think the Quorum Court is wanting to cancel meetings,
Mhm.
but because it's easier for them to cancel those, they can do that, but they can't cancel a
Okay.
Quorum Court meeting. So
Okay.
that was what that ordinance
That's what the
covered.
ordinance was,
But I
okay.
went back over the calendar yesterday or the day before, and was like, Julie, we need to start working on this, because we
Yeah.
need to coordinate with the Quorum Court,
Yeah.
about the meetings. And
And
that,
the sooner the better.
and that's what I told Julie. I was just like, oh yeah, that's not till November, but September 7th is when we have to
And
make
it comes
our-
up like that.
It will, yeah. Especially having to coordinate with
Right.
another entity,
Right.
basically,
Yeah.
and their calendar,
Okay.
so.
So, I don't know how you get all these balls in the air at the same time, but you always seem to do it, Jennifer.
Boy, if they crash, though, we're in, we're gonna be in some hurt, so, but yeah, so just getting it all together.
Okay,
for it.
well, anything else on these?
Put it-
Questions, Jim?
No.
All right, well, you've got these sheets, you can take them home and mull them over. And if you've got any, info to give Jennifer, by all means, feel free to do so. Any other business?
I have two things. One, there is a document for, oh, you already signed it. Renee. That is, so the state.
Attesting that you
That I
have
work.
done your job.
Yes.
Whoa!
That I actually worked.
Okay.
And then the other, we got another FOIA request, and this one has to do with the League of Women Voters. I don't know if you received it or not.
I haven't looked at my
I did
email.
not.
And this one is just for absentee voting,
Okay.
and it deals with, pretty much, I think what it's looking for is the cure period.
Mhm.
Like whenever an absentee ballot is rejected because of the signature or the date of birth missing or something, so they're wanting the records for how many we reject and all of that. But I think that's kind of the goal of
Okay.
what this is for, but I will handle
Okay.
that. I've already, Becky sent it to me, so I'm already working with Becky
Okay.
on her parts of it and then our parts of it.
Okay, well, I mean, I feel like that would be a very good thing to, have the legislature address in terms of, can we expand that cure period? I mean,
Yes,
I don't know.
I agree.
It just, we can see the weaknesses in what it is at this point.
Yeah, other states allow it. Other states allow, if you're missing something on your voter statement,
Mhm.
they allow the voter to come in and complete the voter statement.
Mm.
Not just for ID,
Yeah.
but
Right.
for other pieces of it, signatures or something like that. So it is done in other
Right.
states.
Now,
So-
would you handle that, or would Becky handle that?
So we would have to work it out, probably, since our office is not a full-time office,
Right.
but her office is open for the public, just like for the voter ID part of it, I provide her with the
Oh, yeah.
materials. They would then come to the clerk's office and I would provide her with the materials, like,
Okay.
here's the voter statement where they're missing their date of birth, and they would have to attest, here's my date of birth, kind of, you
Okay.
could do it exactly like you do the voter ID part.
Okay. I just was thinking, this could overwhelm you guys when you don't need to be, but if Becky's office is covering it,
Yeah,
it might be much preferred.
and you would have to limit it, just like the voter ID, there's a deadline of when you have to do it, you would have to set a deadline. I think for these, though, the deadline would have to be different than the voter ID one because of notification. So like, a voter who votes in person and doesn't show their ID gets a letter that
Mhm.
moment
Right.
saying, you must come back to the clerk's office to show ID. But the voters who are voting absentee,
Right.
we have to canvass them, and then election night, and then the next day we would mail them a letter, putting that letter, if the deadline was the Monday after the election, so let's say we mailed something Wednesday, maybe Thursday, if there's a lot of them, then they wouldn't have enough time to turn around and,
May not get their mail, or may not pay
Right.
attention to their mail.
yeah, so
You can
you'd
make it
have to
later.
adjust the deadline
Yeah.
for it.
But it couldn't be any later than the 10 days.
No, you would definitely wanna have it by the Wednesday
Yeah.
or Thursday, so
Day
that you.
before the 10 days at least.
Yeah, yeah, at least.
Renee, who would address the legislature? Who should contact them to ask them?
Well, I think anybody could. Now, we've discussed things with legislators in the past and suggested particular items that we think need to be addressed, mostly corrections, mostly, because one part of the law doesn't really give a lot of room for the other. I think, like, for instance, was it the runoff period? The 3 weeks was simply not as workable as the 4 weeks is. That was
Right.
one thing we requested.
Okay.
I mean, there were probably other counties in the
The
state that
student-
also did.
Yeah, students working as
Oh,
poll
yes.
workers,
Yeah.
Mhm.
we did,
That was
Yeah.
a good one.
we got someone, Robin, did
Right.
that one for us,
Right.
so, yeah, so.
So and, I mean, anybody can talk to a legislator.
Oh, I mean, I do all the time, but they
Yeah.
don't listen to me, so.
Well,
I'm thinking,
you know.
They listen to you guys.
No, because we opposed some of the, well, it's a good question, but we opposed some of the election bills unanimously. We
Yeah.
opposed a lot of them the last session, and they still passed them. They didn't
Yeah.
listen to us, they still passed them.
Right.
Tim and Renee, Jennifer went down and spoke against some of them. Maybe you did.
Jennifer did. Well,
Yeah.
you didn't get the best reception, as I recall.
No.
We all opposed some of them, they
It wasn't
passed
very
them anyway,
pretty,
some of
was
the ones that cause problems now, you know.
I just figured they'd listen to you all.
No.
You was thinking, why listen to the people running the
Yeah,
elections?
exactly,
But not always,
exactly.
not
Yeah.
always the case, unfortunately, because, yeah, we tried on some of them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
we
it-
did.
but that's
Not to
our-
say you can't change it
You know,
now,
you just have to
somebody-
keep knocking on that door.
It's true.
I think the time to do it is earlier in the
Yes.
process. One of the
Yeah.
things that happened with us is we were late in the process.
Mm-hmm.
We were in a period before a committee, and the committee, it was
Yeah.
late on Thursday afternoon, and they were ready to get out of there. And
Well-
they had a plan for what was gonna happen.
That had already been decided.
Everything been decided.
That had been decided before they ever had the committee meeting, and that was unfortunate.
Good,
but-
that's good feedback, you're right. If there's any bills you want changed, now,
If
just
you wanna
Yeah.
do
start
something,
drafting
if we
them now.
recognize something that's not right, we need to start on it now.
That's right,
Sure,
yeah.
Good point.
I think we need to have a regional meeting in December and invite our newly elected legislators and present bills to them in
I
December.
think this is,
And that might be the way to do it, is do it in a regional meeting where
Yeah.
everybody can
You're gonna have.
pound on them.
Yeah, you're gonna have to make it streamlined though, because those regional meetings.
That's true,
get-
yeah,
They are unwieldy sometimes,
Yeah.
you know, you've
Right.
got 50 people in the room.
Yeah.
All who
Yeah.
wanna speak, so I don't know what the best way is, but I think it's a great idea to meet and tell the legislators, hey,
Mhm.
here's some issues we'd like you to address.
Well,
But,
unfortunately, I think what that could mean is a meeting before that meeting to kind of prep the regional people. This is what we're thinking,
Yeah.
and you're gonna have to distill it because otherwise it turns into a free-for-all, and we don't need that. And we certainly don't want the legislators to assume that these are just a bunch of crazy people.
And they're not gonna sit there for 3
No,
hours.
no, they're not.
no, there's some ways to do things like that, and some of the ways are, you know,
Mhm.
the regional group, you know, assign or request people that are interested in working on that and form a committee, you know,
Yeah.
and let that committee work it out, work out the
Present
details,
ideas, yeah.
bring the data in, and then
Yeah.
take that to, maybe you start with the SBC, I don't know, but maybe maybe you have to involve them to keep them from, you know, possibly getting in the way or whatever, I don't know, but anyway.
Yeah.
But somewhere along the line, you talk to maybe that's when that committee reports a short report at the start of the regional meeting,
Mm.
and bang, it's done.
Yeah, that might be a good way to do it. I think we should go ahead and prepare the draft of whatever things that we think should be
Yeah,
addressed.
I would agree,
We're
yeah,
doing,
yeah.
we're keeping track of this more than other counties are.
Right.
So we should,
Well, and
Take the
at
lead.
least, the one thing that I've kind of come to understand is you don't want to just bombard them with 50 things
yeah,
that need to be changed. Let's think about 3 that are the top of the list, if you will. And start with those, and then maybe through the back door, say, well, we also have these other things.
Yeah.
But, you know, these are the top 3
yeah.
that need the most attention at this point. And then,
Yeah, 'cause
You
you
know.
wanna get them on your side.
Exactly.
Give them 3 things that make them popular.
oh, good point. Yeah, well, anyway, unless we have further business, we could talk about this all afternoon.
I just wanna ask one thing.
Okay, do.
Have you got everything that you need from this group, from us, that, especially regarding this, early vote and election day vote center locations?
Yes,
Okay.
I feel, like I said, I feel comfortable moving ahead, and you are in the loop
Right.
of what I'm doing. I don't want to ever just.
I was just
No.
concerned that
Yeah.
we seemed like we were all over the place.
We have been.
We have been, but Jennifer
Yeah,
gets it.
she's got it all
Good.
in hand. All right, well, we are adjourned then.
Thank you.
Sweet.
All right.
Thank you, Lon, thank you, Jennifer, for my copy.
Oh, you're very welcome. And the other were just Google Maps. Oh, that's all right. Yeah. So we're good? Have a good weekend.
All right, you guys have a good one.
Happy Fourth, yeah.
Happy Fourth. May the Fourth be with you.
It will be, it's gonna be crazy time.